everybody? It's Larry the GM, and welcome to our Astros LGM, Larry the GM, Astros All-Star Recap Party when we will be watching the All-Star Game at 7. I'm here with my buddy Clint. This is a semi-version of the Astros Weekly Recap. We haven't been doing very good on our weekly recaps.
We haven't, no, just a little bit of scheduling here and there, and then the holiday and stuff. But I guess this is a better time than any, right, to talk about the Astros, especially with the break and kind of we're coming off a high a little bit. It was a good surge back before the All-Star break, and I think I remember last time saying this series coming up this weekend against Seattle was going to be big, and I don't think it could be any bigger at this point. It's going to be awesome.
It's gonna be huge, folks. We are here to let me do this. Let's talk about the highs and lows. What we're gonna do tonight. We're kind of as a preview for the All-Star game. We're gonna go through the highs and lows of the Astros first half. Now, that article just went out, and it's still not 100% formatted. I'm going to try to format and reload it a few times as we go. I don't like some of the spacing in there; it gets a little confusing. Then we're going to ask you guys to share your highs and lows. We're going to talk a little bit about Astros trade needs. I'll pull up a table I've been working on relative to that. It's basically a basic heat map. And then we will watch the All-Star game together. So, guys, let's have some fun together. I'm sorry for the nature. I was trying to get things done and just ran out of time. So, all right. Welcome to everybody that's here. Please let us know you're here, and let's have some fun together. All right, guys. Let's go to the article. Mm-hmm. And let me start by saying this. At the bottom of this article, I have where the Astros preseason projections were, where their pre-All-Star break actual performances are, where the Fangraphs projection system says that they're going to be how they're going to perform the rest of the season. Then I take where they are plus where they will be, what they're projected to be the rest of the season. Add those two together, or multiply them depending on what I need to do to get the numbers, and then I create an end of the year projection. And then a lot of what I've done here builds off of that. All right, and so what I'm doing through that is I'm actually going to be pulling numbers that are actually in these data tables. Now, let me take you down there to the data tables. So there's the batters preseason projections and where they've been. And so I think this is for folks that are, if you're not with us live, you're watching this on after the game or later tonight or whenever you're watching it. I think it's important to understand where we thought these players were at the beginning of the year, because that kind of builds in some, what we expected. I mean, the obvious one here is Jose Abreu was expected to hit 109 WRC plus. Well, that never happened. Well, guess what? That's one of the lows, right? So the point, the highs and lows to me are like, where have we been exceeding, and where have we fallen short of expectations? So that's why I'm starting with the expectations table. Does that make sense, Clint?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. And just bear in mind, guys, it's kind of it's one of those things where we're going to walk back and forth just to make sure everybody understands that what drove a lot of the I guess you would say estimates and projections for us are going to live right here, but it's important to kind of draw back because there's going to be good and bad, and it's going to help, explain to y'all why we probably saw the season that we saw, and we're going to probably see a lot better moving forward. So,
right. It also will kind of tell the tale of the season, and I think there's there's actually the tale of one of our players that really aligns with the story of the season. I think there's some fascinating lessons to learn from the 2024 season as of at the All-Star break. So there's the hitters. Now here's the pitchers, and the kind of the black line here is really like, okay, these are the core pitching staff, are really the guys that we hoped were going to do something or that have jumped in and pitched. And these are guys that really, some of them are gone, some of them haven't pitched, and like Belak's gone.
Hmm.
Um, and so what I try to do is kind of like separate some of that, and it'll become more clear as we go through it. But there's the pitchers, and you notice that there's no, like, if you notice on the hitters, we got two reds. Of course, it's obvious. It's Tucker and Alvarez, right? A+ grade players. They were expected to be awesome, and they have been. Except Tucker's been hurt for 43 days. Um, but you'll notice that our expectations for the pitching staff, really, when you look at it, really from a FIP standpoint, what isn't as phenomenal, and the starting pitchers really, um, well, we'll get into it, but the starting pitchers
Yeah.
really weren't expected to be great either. All right, so here's where they are as of um, right now. Like, this is their actual performance this year. And I mean, I know this is a lot of data. Just just know that I'm going to go through, and a little clue. I'm going to pick on the ones that are in orange and blue here. Those are things I'm going to kind of talk about. And you see the um, where they actually perform. So this is the actual WRC plus the actual WAR. Then if you ratioed that, like, okay, we're 96 games into the season. What if that was, we just took 162 divided by 96? What would it look like then? And then how does those numbers, like that WAR, how does it relate back to the WAR we expected to get from these players? And that's what this last column is here. And it's actually sorted by, and you can already see some of the themes that are going
Yeah.
to be coming, guys. Like, who has done the biggest job, has delivered, at least to this point in the season, the biggest gap of WAR to what he was supposed to do. That's actually Jake Myers. Um,
And
and
and always
who?
with Larry, I was sorry, Larry, not to interrupt, but
No, go
always
ahead.
when you're looking at it from the higher level, and I know it's a lot of data. Just remember, red is hot, blue is cold. So
That's right.
keep that in mind every
It's the
time we're looking at
standard
this chart.
Laird GM
Yeah.
system, guys. If I assume people are with me, and I thanks Clint for resetting, and we should maybe take a moment to do a little advertisement while we're here. So, um, if you get lost in these numbers, don't worry. Come to the Laird GM's website and just spend time with the tables on the website. And thank you for joining us on YouTube. Um, so we're here to have some fun tonight. Hopefully some folks will jump in, watch the game with us. And so yeah, this is the war sorted by WAR, and you can see, like, hey, Chas McCormick's really not hitting expectations. Some of that is due, this is the number of plate appearances above or below what their expectations were. And you see, of course, Abreu is he was supposed to hit all year long, and
Yeah.
he's gone. And so there's 496 plate appearances just aren't going to be there. All right, so let's look at the pitching, and you see the same thing, and it should be no shock to anybody that Ronel Blanco at the top of this chart. Like, Ronel Blanco is came from nowhere and has been incredible this year. Same with Spencer Arrighetti. So you can see some themes that are going to happen here with these guys. That the guys that are like, delivering far over expectations and those that are delivering far under expectations. And you can see, Clint, I'm going to pick on the one on the bottom of this list,
Yeah.
Rafael Montero, right? So we'll talk about that before we're done. Right. So this is where these players project for the rest of the season. And one of the things that's important here is like, okay, this where they've been, but what are they going to do for the rest of the season? You can see that some of these players, like Jake Myers, is expected to cool off a little bit, and Chas McCormick expected to hit 104 WRC plus, and he's not even in the same ballpark of that right now. So this is where they could be, um, and so here's where the pitchers are projected the rest of the season. Some of this is a little bit concerning because Ronald Blanco at a 4.44 ERA and a 4.54 FIP. That's going to be really challenged if that turns out to be true. And Spencer Arrighetti basically in that same territory. Obviously, Astros fans, we have to hope that those projections aren't right because so much of our success right now is based on those two. Not necessarily even young. I mean, Arrighetti's young. Ronald Blanco is actually older than Framber Valdez. I saw that today. I didn't really process that to know that, but
He's definitely a
so
late
here you go.
bloomer. So
Yeah. So this is where we are from a projected WAR or projected performance the rest of the season. So we put all that together. So like, where will these players be at the end of the year? What will their end of the year statistics look like? And you may think, Larry, this is a long way around just to do highs and lows. Okay, but yeah, but it's me. So you're gonna get a number based analysis,
we're very
and really
comprehensive
what
here.
it's doing is it's giving you an objective framework to look at all this stuff, right? So here we got the players as who's going to exceed expectations, who's going to miserably, or who's going to be failing expectations. Well, Jose Abreu is already gone, and that he would have he's delivered 2.6 WAR less than expectations. What's interesting here is this little red box here, Clint. The offense, if you take what they've already done and what they are projected to do for the next, I guess that would be 66 games, the offense is actually expected to deliver 2.3 WAR more than the I would say the weighted adjusted WAR that I would have came out with from in the preseason. And I don't you have to go back to the articles to see what I'm talking about by weighted adjusted, because the WAR system is based certain allocated for offense, certain allocated for defense. But yeah, I mean, so the conclusion one would reach from that is really not the offense that's the problem. Although a 113 WRC plus offense was not really what we were hoping to get, but overall, this offense is fine. I mean, really, this offense would be really clicking if Kyle Tucker was here and we were able to see this.
Yeah,
See the
we're
offense.
factoring in a Kyle Tuckerless lineup into that
Right.
impact on that first half, and it just I guess that just we don't want to discount how valuable he's been and how valuable he's
Correct.
going to be.
We haven't, Clint, we really haven't seen the offense because we had Jose Abreu.
Yep.
Jose Abreu was still on the team when Kyle Tucker was hurt.
Yeah,
So we
and
haven't
then
seen this offense without Kyle Tucker and without Jose Abreu. And when we do, I think we're going to get some version of the offense that's going to be really exciting.
right,
Um,
and I think it's also a testament to just that everything things are a lot better than they always appeared to be, and it was just a lot of bad luck at times. But I don't want to discount. I also don't want to discredit how big of an impact Jose Abreu was negatively on the overall, production of the offense. It was bad, and I mean it was really easy to pitch around hitters and do things like that when you knew what you had there, and so the record speaks for itself from from a win loss standpoint. But we're going to talk about it more and more as we look at these guys. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun once he's healthy and back.
yeah, it really will be. So, now, so here's the pitching table, and the interesting thing about the pitching table here, Clint, is that that same number in the lower right corner, you see that, and what does that tell you? We're headed to not delivering 4.7 WAR that this pitching staff was expected to deliver. And so the offense 2.3 higher, the pitching 4.7 lower. That means a net 2.5 lower WAR would be projected from this team versus the expectations. And you know what, Clint? That's going to put the team right at, because what those numbers preseason basically said, this was an 89 win team. You take
Mhm.
2 wins away from that, 87 win team.
87.
Well, where have I been saying the Astros are good? Lately my projections are pegging the Astros to finish at 87 wins.
87.
It's guys. I know this. I know people like don't tell me about war and all these projections. Like I don't believe any of that stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
Believe it or
don't
not,
worry. The
they
data will
really
get you
work.
there.
Yeah. So, Miss Scott, I wish I could give you good news. I have a feeling that by the end of tonight, you may be more worried, because look at this table. Look at all the guys in blue, and you're right. I really didn't even address the innings limit. That innings limit issue is going to be something I'm going to do as a follow up. I think, Clint, we're probably going to talk about that on Thursday, right? When we talk
Yeah.
about like what to expect in the second half. So, people, I got a lot more work. Man, it's the All-Star break, but Larry the GM's not taking any breaks, man. I am. Tonight we're talking about the first half. We're kind of closing the book on the first half. What happened in the first half, and then we're going to be talking trades this week. Yeah, Clint and I promise you guys, July comes, we're going to dig into the trades.
Yeah.
Clint's already been throwing me ideas. I got a table of pitchers. I got a table of, well, I'm not going to say it yet. I got another position that I'm actually looking at some trades for, and
Yeah.
I'm
I've
not
pulled
ready to
some
share
data, and
any
I've
too
got
much of
some.
that. But
I've pulled some
but
data myself, and we're gonna hash those things out.
it's we told you we're gonna get into the trades, and Miss Scott, I think what this really says is this team needs a starting pitcher to take the load off of Blanco and
Yeah.
Arrighetti, because I mean
It's
Blanco,
really
I mean, it's
uncharted
on this
waters
table.
with a lot of them.
Blanco is on pace to pitch 75 more innings, 76 more innings than he was projected to pitch. Now, that's that's like, okay. Now, let me be a little less alarmist about that, because Ronel Blanco is like 30 and a
He's 30
half
years
years
old.
old.
Yep.
And to be this is gosh, I'm gonna get
Well,
myself in trouble, Clint.
well, hold on. I'll let while you
Go
think
ahead,
about it.
you say it.
My biggest perspective of this. Ronald Blanco has earned every inning he's had with the quality of pitching that he's put out there on the mound every 5 or so days he's been out there. So, um, it's a blessing for the Astros to have had Ronald Blanco come out and pitch at the level he has. Now's the unfortunate downside of that is you put him in a position where he's never been in, he's never pitched this many innings. He's never really understood or not understood, but he's never really endured a 162 game season. It's a
Right.
completely different animal. And I will say this, the Astros are not right here, right now, one game back without Rono Blanco.
Correct.
So they needed every ounce of what he had, and they're going to need every ounce of it when it matters later. But this is what's going to make this trade deadline and the rest of this month really, important is where do we start to manage these innings, Larry, and how we do it? Because it's one thing to get good performance and inning volume at the same time, and then we're going to be sitting here talking about how do we get both, like where do those kind of come together, because it's one thing to eat innings, another thing to eat innings productively. And I it's a darn shame that that these injuries have talked about, and we've been talking about it since April.
Yeah. Yes, we have, Clint. I mean,
Yep.
the pitching injury issue. Well, I think in the verbiage of the article, and we're going to get to it. I think I said it's a miracle the Astros are as good as they are,
Yeah.
Because I mean look at this table, guys. Who's Clint? Who's blue in this table?
Oh, I mean,
It,
but I'm gonna omit Rafael Montero because we've known that for the longest time. But Justin Verlander, Christian Javier, Framber Valdez, even if Lance McCullers Jr. is healthy, I mean, a lot of guys that in the event they were healthy would be pitching every 5 days.
right,
And I know this factors, that's factoring that in, and that's making that, it's accommodating that data, but that doesn't diminish the fact that they're they're probably more average than we realize and we believe.
correct.
You know,
At least with Verlander
uh,
and well Javier. I mean Javier's
ob-
gone. We're losing
yep,
almost 130 innings from him. Lance McCullers is. I mean, the projections said he was going to give us 67 more innings than he's in. JP France 72 innings more. I mean, guys, it's every one of, and I do talk about this in this article. Like it's every one of the core starting pitchers,
mhm,
and and or it seems like it's not everyone, but it's almost everyone. And it's everyone but Ronel Blanco and Spencer Arrighetti. And Spencer Arrighetti, 100 projects to have pitch 100 more innings than he was projected. Now the truth is, he wasn't projected to pitch anything but like 24 innings this year for the major leagues. Now
right.
that doesn't mean he wasn't going to pitch a bunch of innings in AAA. He was, but uh, you know we are
Completely different
expecting.
animal. Yeah.
Yeah, we're expecting our rookie. It's absolutely remarkable that these guys have been as good as they've been, and so there you go. That I mean, the pitching table really is kind of scary, and there's not much we can. You know me, guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not. I'm just not. So, um, yeah. So there's the
And one of my other points to that, Larry, is just you got to give credit to Joe Espada
right.
and Dana Brown because they have put a ton of work and effort into figuring out how they're going to manage this, and the work is not done. I mean, the work probably gets even harder now, knowing that you're up
So
against potential inning limits and obligate, they're obligated to manage these guys and mitigate the risk of injury with their stud, Ronald Blanco, right now. And you know, it's hard to say. In hindsight, part of me is like, if we could get a version of 2022 Framber Valdez in the second half right now, what a lifesaver that would be.
mhm.
But it's not. It's not just going to end there, and it
We
just,
need Justin Verlander to be some version of Justin
yeah,
Verlander when he comes back. I
yeah.
mean,
We're
at
talking
least
about some of these big names finally living up to it a little bit, and you know, w- I don't. Like I said, I don't want to discount what the Astros have done since that horrible start because it's been phenomenal. I mean, it really has.
all right. So, guys, I have updated. I told Clint we were going to kind of do that so I could fix some of the formatting in the article. So
And my biggest thing,
hopefully
guys,
that happened.
yeah, there's a lot of highs from the first half, regardless of how it started. I mean, I personally I did not expect Jake Myers to perform at the level he has, but he's been phenomenal. I mean, I think he's one of the I think I saw one of the power rankings, him as one of the top 10 center fielders in baseball, which is
Yep.
shocking just because of how much
Yeah.
talent is in the outfield. But you can't sit there and say, well, he deserves every bit of it at this point. Been a
So,
breath of
Clint,
fresh
let's.
air in the bottom of that lineup.
So, folks, here's how I'd like to do this. I'd like for you guys to already start putting in your highs. Okay, so go ahead and trust me, we're going to take 15 minutes or so. We're going to, well, okay, it's Clint and me, so who knows how long, but we'll spend more time on the highs than we'll do the lows, because the lows are well, a few of the lows I just have a few sentences on, because it's really like what is this going to happen. But let's look at the highs. Myers rises. That's high number one. Jake Myers rising to, like, guys, do people remember where this fan base was in the offseason about Jake Myers? We were freaking out. I wasn't. I shouldn't say we, but because I wrote 2 articles saying, like, guys, Jake Myers projects to be actually a pretty good center fielder, and the Astros are telling us they're not. This is their plan, and you may not like it, you may hate it, you may but this is their plan. This is what they're doing. And so let me just make sure. Okay. My wife is traveling, so I need to make sure or check my phone every once in a while, just make sure she's all right. So, Jake Myers projected to give us a 93 WRC plus and 1.2 WAR. And as I showed in the tables, like, Jake Myers, he's 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career. He's got only 2.044 years of service time. And his actual before, like, he had 399 plate appearances for an entire season. In the first 96 games, he's given us 293 of 109 WRC plus, and he's already given us 2 WAR on a player that was projected to give us 1.2 WAR. Right? And if you take those tables, like, the reason I did this, like, okay, what would this project to be for the whole year? A 484 plate appearance year of 107 WRC plus, which is 14 over that projection, and a 2.9 WAR. We're gonna get the projection systems are indicating that they think we're gonna get nearly 3 WAR from Jake Myers this year. That is, Jake Myers right now is the 5th highest WAR among players while they play center field. Now, watch my wording there. Being really careful, right? Because some of the players in the Fangraphs tables are playing more than just center field, and I'm just telling you, the players that, as they're playing center field, Jake Myers is delivering the 5th most WAR. That's better than Julio Rodriguez. That's better than Luis Robert Jr. this year. Now, Robert Jr. has been injured some, but guys, that's incredible. I mean, Jake Myers, like,
It's not even that, Larry. It's just, yeah, compare him to other center fielders is great, but for the role he was supposed to play on this team and where you really expect your production to be coming from with Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, for this guy to just walk in and say, "Look, I'm gonna fill some gaps," it's it's remarkable. It's great. It's the part of the things that helped keep this season alive. I mean, it really is. Because if you get any other production closer to, I guess, what we expected or lesser, which most MLB teams are dealing with, these Astros may not be in this position. So huge shout out and a ton of credit to Jake Myers and what he's been. It's a complete 180 from last year and any other time before that, really.
I mean, Clint, I'm about to say that the John Singleton story needs to be a film. It needs to be a movie. There's about like 4 or 5 movies that could be made just on the 2024 Astros. Ronel Blanco story, the Spencer Getty story.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, you could have the tragedy that is Jose Abreu story, right? Johnson, guys, I went back. I just, like, we have to tell the story of John Singleton.
Yep.
This guy was one of the top prospects in baseball. And 2011, 2014, during the terrible years of the Astros. He rose quickly to become to the Astros in 2014. He was part of the plan. The
Mm-hmm.
Astros signed him to like a 7-year deal. Wasn't that right, Clint? It's something like 7 years at really cheap to try to get we're gonna get him locked in, and that way we're gonna have money for Correa, we're gonna have money for Altuve, and he smoked his way. This is how I put it. He smoked his way into prospect purgatory, and he left baseball in 2017. He he reached the majors and he sucked. Well, now hang on just a minute though. The truth is, John Singleton was like an 80 WRC plus player. It was just that in this franchise in 2015 and 2014, 2015, they needed more from John Singleton than he was getting.
Yeah.
And that led him down a path that, and honestly now, I don't know that John Singleton would have been kicked out of baseball the way he was, because marijuana usage is way more acceptable. So he went into purgatory for like I don't even know where John Singleton went. I think he just went home.
No. Yeah.
And in 2021, there's news reports that John Singleton's playing in the Mexican League. And this starts a resurrection story. And he played really well in the Mexican League. In 2023, the Brewers took notice, and I think the Brewers took a shot on him at the end of 2021. I don't remember that exactly. And then he had shown really well in AAA. John Singleton has mashed in AAA most of his life. Some would argue he's the quintessential 4A player, right? And he came up and they gave him a shot in 2023. And guys, it was worse than John Singleton had ever been in the major leagues. He was terrible for the Brewers. Somehow, in the middle of all that, they released him on 6/21. 3 days later, the GM that we all love to crap on said, "You know what? There's something there. I see something." That the Astros front office saw something, and it's almost like the circle of life. You know what? John Singleton owes us. He owes us some quality at bats in the major leagues for all the millions of dollars we paid him. And they brought him to the Astros 3 days later, and John Singleton mashed again in AAA. Then on August 8th, John Singleton was promoted to the Astros. Now, I believe it was August 11th. Days later, Singleton became the primary first baseman when Jose Abreu went to the injured list. Now, I don't know if the Astros knew when they signed Singleton, well, they would have to known that Abreu was struggling during the year. And I think the reports we've gotten, right, is that Abreu knew that his back wasn't right most of the season last year.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, here, let's take a chance and let's take a flyer. And he came up, and now John Singleton hit 51 WRC plus when he played for the Astros last year. But even within that, there were signs he was getting walks. There were signs that he might be okay as a part-time player, backup. And so this team kept him on the 40-man roster, which it would have been really easy to dump John Singleton when the team was setting Rule 5 draft roster protection in November. They didn't. They kept him. And they entered the 2024 season not expecting Singleton to do much, but be a backup first baseman and a left-handed pinch hitter, which is what he'd been basically doing in 2023. And that's what he did until I want everybody that loves John Singleton to remember this date. April 11th. April 11th, 12th, and 13th, John Singleton mashed like he was playing in AAA. John Singleton had I don't remember what it was, 160, 170 WRC plus in those 3 games in the major leagues. We saw the John Singleton we had never seen before, and that he was giving Jose Abreu, even in that mid-April time frame this year, he was giving the Astros were already saying we need to give Jose Abreu more rest than we're doing. So let's go let Singleton do what he can do and whatever. It can't be any worse than the minus 47 WRC plus that we're getting out of Jose Abreu. So the risk reward was pretty low, right? So the risk was low, the reward could have been high. And by the time Abreu went to Florida 3 weeks later, or 17 days later, Singleton was hitting 110 WRC plus from the 11th to the 28th of April. John Singleton had never done that in the major leagues. All right. While Abreu was in Florida, Singleton became the primary first baseman. Now, guys, you've lived all this, but I wanted to give the context. This is the miracle. This is the high of this season. The John Singleton story should be a movie, guys. We are gonna watch a John Singleton movie. It's gonna be about making bad choices. It's gonna be all these. There are you are gonna be able to tell your grandkids about John Singleton and perseverance and about like the downside of making bad choices in life and making good choices and persevering and coming back and never giving up and always going for it. John Singleton mashed the ball while Abreu was in Florida, 126 WRC plus. Then Abreu came back, and what happened, Clint?
Oh, he slumped. It was down.
It was terrible. He was a minus 5 WRC plus in the 17 days that Abreu was back because Abreu was getting most of the starts. And Singleton was like, man, what do I got to do? This guy stinks. Why am I being put to the bench? All right. Then Abreu gets released. You know what what's the WRC plus is since Abreu was released? 126. What he did when Abreu was in Florida. Now, here's my conflict. When we talk about trade needs, I'll tell you the story. Like, I look at the projection systems. The projection systems are screaming that the Astros need a first baseman. The Astros are telling you they think they need a first baseman. John Singleton is trying to tell you, hello, if you just let me play first base 80% of the time, I'm going to give you 120 WRC. I have figured out the major leagues. Just don't overplay me against lefties. Let me mash against the righties, and I will give you good performance from first base. The Singleton story is one of the absolute highs of this season. It's not even close. Now the war's not really there yet because it's only when you put all that together, it's a 102 WRC plus.
Yep.
But it's 257 plate appearances, and I would say too, Clint. You're the scout. He's played better. His defense at first base is getting better almost every week. It seems like getting more comfortable.
He's really overlooked when it comes to that because he's played really good defense. He's been a solid first baseman, and I don't. My thing with him is just, I think it's a lot of him getting the consistent ABs and continuing to just go up there, and we'll talk about it more later when we talk about some of the lows because it'll come up again, and probably will come up Thursday as well. It's just John Singleton has the narrative speaking when we go all the way back to 2011 when this whole thing started, and when you see him come back now, it's all come full circle. and it's a poetic. It's just a poetic masterpiece, I guess, is really the way that how it's all gone down for John Singleton to come around and be in this position. But you can't discount the defense. We've seen some pretty good web gem plays, solid. But my biggest thing is he wins with a lot more plate discipline than a lot of people realize as well. I think he's been phenomenal at that, and he makes ABs linger a little bit longer. And will just he pimps home runs, and but when I say that, I mean his exit velocity and his ability to square up a baseball is phenomenal. It's great. And I'm sure that might have been maybe that was one of the telling points for Dana Brown and them when they saw him last year. Was like the speed is there, the power is there. If we can just find a way to tap into that and get him rolling in the direction we need. But you know, the data's there, Larry. It supports it. Everything that is showing right now, and we'll talk about it later. Like John Singleton might be making a case to say you need to prioritize your trade efforts elsewhere.
Yeah, so just full disclosure, I'm conflicted about whether the Astros need a first baseman or not. And if they're going to trade for a first baseman, I'm just going to say this: that first baseman better be really dang good. Which, okay, the problem with that is they don't necessarily have a lot of assets to go get really good players unless they're rentals. So that the the database of first basemen that I'm working on is like 3 deep right now, and you guys already know a couple of those names. And I, you know, I think if you're going to trade for a first baseman, that's the way you got to go. And then maybe Singleton can DH or that first baseman can DH, and you give yourself even a deeper lineup. The challenge against Clemson is back to where we started. Like the Astros we haven't seen the offense yet because we haven't had Tucker back.
No,
I mean,
I have not.
I think
No.
I think the Astros have got to be like, we would have loved to have July to figure out what the offense would be with Kyle Tucker in it, to know whether or not we have to get a rental first baseman. I don't know. So
I think personally, just looking at it, just high level, just right out the bat, slotting Kyle Tucker in that lineup, it's just going to be a pretty cliche thing. There's no way it gets worse at that point.
yeah,
You know, I think for the challenge for Espada and them with all these guys is just getting the order correct and how it'll work. Lefties versus righties, things like that. Obviously, Kyle Tucker is one of those guys that faces both, but we alluded to this in other recaps how much more versatile this lineup is compared to other years, just with the way that the catchers line up and with the outfielders and stuff like that. And we're going to get into it even more as we head to hit the deadline, because there's going to be some pieces that are going to be switching around and moving. I just don't see how,
yeah.
unless Dana Brown is forced to sit on his hands or there's something happens catastrophic in July that just creates a reason to not do anything. Um, this roster will look a little different, I'm sure.
So let's go to another highlight. The other highlight that I came up with is the young bats in this lineup. Like, guys, the Astros have been kind of aging a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Miss Scott, there are some of the names. And yeah, you're right. Are they available? Yandy Diaz is another name I would say that you know are. I might even make the argument Yandy Diaz is the better choice, but I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to make those trades. So I mean, I'm just telling you that's active work. That's in the Larry GM oven right now. But the young bats, contributors under 28 with less than 2 years, 2 years or less of service time. So again, one more day, so I can get Jeremy Pena at 2 years of service time. And these service time numbers are before this season, right? So Jeremy Pena in his third year, 26 years old right now. Jeremy Pena was expected to give 637 plate appearances and a 96 WRC plus 2.1 WAR. He's projecting to give us more plate appearances than that. Of course, it's hard to get more than 637, but it projects 654. It hits 100 WRC plus, plays really good defense, and he's going to give us. He projects to give us 3.1 WAR, another WAR above. And this is why that number of the whole WAR table is greater than the expectations or the projection. So Jeremy Pena, just in Jeremy Pena, really good player, Clint. I wish somebody would have told us.
Yeah, I had no idea.
No idea. We just wrote about it. Yonder Diaz. I mean, you know that Yonder Diaz are going to be in the highlights. All right. Yonder Diaz was supposed to give us 441 plate appearances at 110 WRC plus a 1.8 WAR. Now, you can look at this and say, well, wait a minute, he's only giving us 104 WRC plus, but pay attention to the plate appearances number. And basically, Joe Espada has played Yonder Diaz almost every day while College Tucker's been out. I don't think that's the best for Yonder Diaz as a catcher, and I know he's played DH a lot, but he's
Kind of
projected to
necessary in
have.
the spot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? You're like the second or third best batter. Okay, you're third or fourth best batter in this offense.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? 529 plate appearances for our catcher. Yes, a good third or so of those are going to be as DH, but he's projected to give 2.1 WAR before the end of the year. He again, 25 years old. Another young player. All right, then we got Joey Loperfido. Guys,
Oh,
Joey
Larry,
Loperfido.
just real quick. I I don't know who would have told you he was good, but
Yeah.
just just let you know.
How many times did I write about Yonder Diaz versus Maldonado? Joey Loperfido. Joey
And I
Loperfido.
will. Sorry,
Go
Larry,
ahead.
I'm cutting you off one more time, but I think what the most amazing part of it was is what happened during this whole time is Joe Espada put Yonder Diaz right there in the cleanup spot and said, "You're gonna figure out how to hit with runners in scoring position or not. No,
Exactly.
we're gonna get this sorted
We're
one
gonna
way or the other."
figure this out because we need you. We
Yeah,
need you to
and it
be and when Kyle Tucker gets back, we need you to be hitting right behind him, protecting him.
whereas most managers would have zigged, Espada zagged and put him right on the hot seat. It was awesome. I think that was great. Such an old school move in a lot of ways.
Yeah, do you want to go, Clint? Why don't you call up Yonder Diaz's like what's he doing with runners in scoring position this year? I haven't looked at that lately. I know last time I looked, it was actually pretty good. Joey Loperfido was only supposed to give us 42 plate appearances this year, according to the preseason projections, at an 86 WRC plus. Now, you guys that follow the site, you know that I've talked about like I think some of the narratives about Joey Loperfido are a little bit over the top because his BABIP is so out of sky high. I don't think he's gonna. Well, he's not gonna hit like he has hit. Um, just expecting him to be the 130 or whatever it was early on. Right now, Joey Loperfido's at 90 at a 113 WRC plus, 98 plate appearances, point 0.6 WAR. He's 25 years old. The projection systems say, hey, he's still going to play quite a bit in the second half of the season. Not every day. He's going to split time. He's going to be in a platoon. That's what they expect him to be. And he's going to at the end of the year he's going to have about 102 WRC plus. What have I been saying about Joey Loperfido for since the beginning of his time here? That if we should expect him to be about an average major league baseball player, and as a rookie, that's just fine. And that's what we're going to get. And we're going to get a player that's going to deliver about 0.7, maybe 1 WAR. And hey, from a part-time player, that's just fine. And let's let Joey Loperfido cook. Let's let him give him some grace when he's not awesome. And when we got Kyle Tucker back in the lineup, Joey Loperfido can probably move down to staying in about the 7 or 8 hole and be a left-handed bat at the bottom of the lineup, and it'll be just fine. Those three guys really are critical to this.
Yeah.
Like, guys, when we talk about sustaining this franchise into the future and still maintaining this team as a championship level team. It's these three guys that are going to play a really important role with Jake Myers. One would assume. All right,
So
Hunter
just to
Brown. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
go back to that Yainer Diaz. So baseball savant, runners in scoring position, an 835 OPS,
That'll work.
44 RBIs. Now, I think the interesting part of it, and I'm always open to be wrong here, is that with runners at second or runners at second and third, it's got a 1.137 or a 1.156 OPS.
Wow.
Obviously, very small sample size, but that is pretty absurd, I guess, when you think about it. I don't know. I just kind of look at that and like I said, Joe Espada's kind of earned a lot of respect with that move in general for me, because it's just like we're gonna hit this right in the head and solve this problem real quick, because you're too damn good to be hitting that bad with runners in scoring position.
Right. It was always a sample size issue, and then
Yeah.
all right. So let's go to the next another highlight. Hunter Brown. I would submit to you that Hunter Brown's performance tells the story of the Astros season. He was terrible early, unlucky early, and just about when Hunter Brown switched and turned it on and became Hunter Brown that we all expected him to be, that's when the Astros started playing well. I think. I mean, Hunter Brown through the first 8 game started, was a disaster. He pitched 37.1 innings through those 8 starts, so that's less than 5 innings to start. He had a 7.71 ERA, a 5.52 FIP. Now, Clint, this is exactly why I'm always talking about FIP versus ERA. The FIP, yeah, there's nothing good about a 5.52
No.
FIP, but it's way better than a 7.71 ERA. Okay. His WAR ranked 130th out of 134 pitchers with more than 30 innings. That's how bad Hunter Brown was. But since 518, the next start, 61 innings, 10 starts, 6 innings a start, 2.36 ERA, 3.37 FIP. And again, I think the FIP is probably more predictive. Like, don't expect him to hit a 2.36 ERA the rest of the season. But if he's giving us 3.5, the 3.8 ERA FIP, that probably is really good. His WAR is 20th best out of 87 pitchers this season with 50 innings pitched. That's Hunter Brown.
It's back to that old saying there. You're too darn good to be that damn bad. And I think it just comes back to it time and time and again. There's a lot of talent in some of these guys, and it's just they get started off rough, and we're ready to throw them under the bus. But that's not the case, guys. Sometimes you just gotta work through some pains to get the gains.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. You hang out with. I mean, you might, brother. I'm not positive you're an Astros fan, but just I know you're from the Bronx, so we might have some interesting things for you this week. We're gonna have a lot, guys. We're gonna have a lot of content this week. Clint, I mean, I guess we should probably pause, Clint, and let everybody know we're gonna do another show Thursday night. It may be a marathon, so that'll be a trade deadline focus. Begin the discussions of the trade deadline. So, we're getting into it. All right. So I would say Brown's resilience, being open to coaching, trying new things with the sinker, are all lessons that you can apply to your children, your grandchildren. Like guys, I know I'm big on this, and maybe it's like, Larry, you're just old and you're trying to tell us what to do. But I'm just saying, like, if you really want to get especially your sons, like if you want to give them something to grab hold of, like, why do we watch sports? Well, you watch sports for lessons like this. For Hunter Brown, like, did he give up when he was terrible? What did he do? He just, like, he engaged with a lot of different coaching, got a lot of different input, and say, well, hey, that sinker may be something you really want to try. And lo and behold, as we've covered here on previous Astros weekly recaps, you know, it changed everything. All right, let's do one more. Well, thank you, thank you, brother, for that. So the pitchers, and Clint, I think we said it as we started. Like, these pitchers have saved the season for the Houston Astros. Now, Ronel Blanco's not young, but Ronel Blanco doesn't even have a full year of service time.
No.
And he was projected to give this team 94 innings pitched, 4.38 ERA, 4.57 FIP. You know what that is? That's like a number 4, number 5 starter.
Yeah.
0.4 WAR.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, I would have argued with you that Ronel Blanco should be the long guy in the bullpen at the beginning of the year. The best role for him would have been like mop up duty for given those numbers. Ronel Blanco is projected to give this team 170 innings pitched at a 3.23 ERA, a 4.46 FIP, and a 1.5 WAR. Now, I will tell you, I do worry about that FIP number. That FIP number probably is more indicative of the true talent level. I think we need to be careful. Like, if you see the spread of the FIP to the projected FIP, it's not even that big. But one of the things I think you nailed early, Clint, is like, hey, to a certain extent, just getting the innings from Ronel Blanco has been as important as anything.
Yeah.
So, Spencer Arrighetti, guys. Spencer Arrighetti, 24 innings pitched, 4.64 ERA, 4.78 FIP. That's what he was supposed to do at the beginning of this year. His actual 124 innings pitched, 5.23 ERA, 4.51 ERA, 4.51 FIP. He's going to projects to give us 1 WAR, which is 0.9 over projections. Spencer Arrighetti has been an extremely valuable pitcher for this team. So I think
that was a point I'm recalling I made in the recaps we did, and he was kind of struggling. He's having shorter outings. It's like he's better than this, guys. It's a wake up call. It's a learning experience, but the talent was there, and like I said, those guys have saved this season, and now it's going to be really interesting how this front office complements that and goes after talent now, because I would think that we could see better from them, if things work out. But it's kind of the testament to Hunter Brown and them as well. It's like these guys are working on a craft. They've all adapted. They've all changed. They continue to evolve, and it's just awesome to see. It's disappointing that a lot of the veterans didn't show up when we needed them, but it's also just great to see guys take advantage of the circumstance. Like, it's next man up. We're gonna do this thing, and we're gonna keep trucking.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make an argument that the young guys, I think, Clint, I think you're leading us to, the young guys have saved this season, and the old guys or the veterans have kind of like sabotaged the season.
Yeah.
And it's just not the way it's supposed to work. I mean, even somebody like Bregman, it was terrible early. Like what the heck is going on? And so, if we see the veterans step up and really perform as we expect them to be able to do, it's going to be pretty special. All right, so it's now 7:00. Let's do this with the lows. Let's kind of work them in during like commercial breaks. I need to take a little break. I need to get a drink. And I need to find the remote.
Some deserved a deserved quick little break real quick would be great. Yeah.
So, Clint, we'll be here. Clint, why don't you do your break and then I'll do mine after that.
Okay. Yeah, Jordan Alvarez is walking out on the field right now though. So I'm gonna
There you go.
1 second to see. Yep, he's donning the hat. That's awesome. I'm glad he's there. I'm glad at least one Astro's there. I mean, I know that. I mean, they obviously Tucker and Altuve could be there, but health is obviously more important, and I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. But it's just good to see Jordan walking out there healthy. He's a stud. So okay, I'll be right back, Larry. Sorry.
All right, no problem. And so, guys, stay with us. It doesn't look like we have anybody even in the chat in the room. We're gonna have fun tonight. If you want, we can do some drinking games. If anybody wants to suggest a drinking game, we could do something like that. I just need to find the remote to the TV, and I'm not sure where it is. So bear with me while I do that. Let's see. Well, folks, I'm here. I'm not on camera right now, but I am here. All right. I'm going to turn the camera off so I'm not distracting you. So if you guys are here for the watch party, we'll definitely have some fun. I don't see anybody in the room. If you are in the room, please check in. Please let me know you're here. Let's have some fun. Watch the game. We've done the highlights. We do have some lowlights to go over, unfortunately. It has been an up and down season. And with the ups, there have been downs. Where is my remote?
All right, Larry, I have returned.
All right, Clint. I can't find my TV remote. That's gonna suck.
Oh, it's not missing much yet.
Yeah, I know. I am. I mean, I enjoyed. I remember as a kid really enjoying the All Star game, and I think that mainly I think it had to do with the fact that the National League and the American League didn't play during the season, and so you got to see a bunch of really good players you never saw.
Right. I always loved the All-Star games. I think and I'm an Astros fan, die hard through and through. But there's always fun to see. It was always fun to see guys like Mariano Rivera come out and close out games, and Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds. A lot of those guys. I mentioned a lot of big perennial names, and I was even a big Todd Helton fan. As a guy who played first base and was left-handed, there was just so many cool things about it, and seeing all that talent kind of take place and be on the same field at the same time. It was fun, and you get to see matchups you don't really ever see. And I think one of the things I was most excited about to see tonight was Paul Skeens pitch against some of these guys. It's going to be a
Yeah.
pretty cool
How do you
sight.
think that's gonna
It
go?
may only, yeah. And so I can't wait to see. I hope he pumps 101, 102 right in there at first pitch and gets this thing going the right way. It's kind of cool. I mean, I I know he's not an Astro, but we're talking about probably the next best pitcher in baseball if he's not already kind of there.
Right.
Um, and I just think it's rare to see those types of guys that have done it at that type of high level, especially at a young age. I remember watching him in the College World Series, and it's like,
Right.
this guy's special. He's incredibly special, you know.
Well, I'm gonna go get a drink.
It's also really, it's nice to see a lot of fans show up for the game in Arlington.
Yeah, my son and I were originally going to go to the All Star game in Arlington,
Yeah, I will
and
be
then
in
we had a schedule
Philadelphia.
conflict.
Yeah, I will be in Philadelphia to watch the Astros play the Phillies at the end of August.
Well, we go.
So that's going to be a special treat. My brother and I are taking my dad for his 60th birthday. My dad lives in Pennsylvania, just give a little bit of perspective. So it's a kind of a full circle type thing to go see him and then go to that game. But I'm excited to see that. I've never been to the ballpark in Philly, never been to Philadelphia at all. So that's going to be really fun to experience that. And I'm hoping these Astros are rolling and go in there and put some, you know, remind Philadelphia what happened in 2022. You know.
Yeah, Philly is good.
You gotta love Fox to get all these commercials in, man. Well, guys, I know it's kind of boring until this first pitch comes around. If there's any questions or anything, we can help talk about or want to talk about. It doesn't have to be the Astros. Obviously, we're happy to do it. And just also want to remind everybody, we're gonna do another show Thursday. I'll put all the invites and tweets out tomorrow about time and stuff like that. And Larry and I did, we promised, we don't talk about trades till July, but now that it's July and we're halfway there and it's All-Star break, it's time. So we're gonna have content on that. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be fun to talk about. This is always the beauty and the interest and interesting part of the seasons whenever teams are looking to bolster their lineups, find more pitching help. And really, what Larry and I really like to do is help folks navigate, who are buyers and sellers, what is attainable, what's not attainable. We got to look at this not just from a player standpoint, but from a money standpoint. It's a big time, and and I'll be honest, it's one of the more fun times, especially just because you really start to become that general manager that you want to be, and we always talk about, and really start to understand, and kind of what we always brand this on with the game within a game type thing. We really start to put in perspective the value in guys who are consistently pitching innings, and how the FIPS and XFIPS look, and what we're looking at expected compared to actuals right now. And maybe there's some bargain deals that we can find that aren't quite as flashy when they happen, but they turn out great. We've had a few instances of that happen in the Astros history before. So I encourage everybody to stay with us and follow, like, subscribe, and obviously go to the website daily because everything's happening all the time. So if you're watching the game, there goes Mr. Nolan Ryan to be I guess it's one of a few throwing out the first pitch. Yeah, it's got to be if Adrian Beltre is walking up there now.
So they're doing like Texas Ranger greats.
Yeah.
They love them Nolan Ryan up there too. So
Yeah, funny story. So Nolan Ryan, I'm from a small town, Gonzales, Texas, and Nolan Ryan owns a ton of land around that town. And so I used to see him. Oh, there's Pudge Rodriguez. I didn't even recognize him, but there he was. I used to run into Nolan Ryan a couple times because he would always eat lunch down there whenever they were taking care of the cattle and traveling. And I know that sounds really far fetched. It's like, why would Nolan Ryan be down there? And I said, well, he's a cattleman, he's a ranchman, so That was always interesting, and I always remember the signed poster whenever he had the bloody lip or bloody.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the blood. Yeah, and the blood running down the jersey, and he signed that, and that was at one of the local restaurants, and that was one of one of the times I actually looked up to a poster that had a Rangers name on it. Um, so it's kind of funny how that all happens, but I mean, he's obviously one of the greatest to ever pitch. So
All right. I guess I'm going
I
to have
guess
to get
it's
the game on my computer. So that'll be interesting. All right.
yeah. And now they're talking about Paul Skeens, who could be like one of those next best greats ever. Um,
Let's see. How am I going to do this? What are you seeing, Clint?
I am putting up the game day cast.
All right.
Hopefully that's not too far out there for not too fast. Nothing's happening too heavy, but I thought it'd be a good time to look to see what your NL and All Star lineups look like. National League's going to lead off with Kettle Marte, then obviously Shohei Ohtani's batting second, Trey Turner third, Harper is cleanup. How does that William or I hate to admit that, guys. I don't. It's obviously got to be. It's one of the Contreras brothers at catcher. I don't. I think it's Wilmer, isn't it? Christian
The
Yelich,
Brewer?
Alec
Is
Bohm.
is it the Brewer?
I believe it's the Brewer. Yes,
Yeah, so he's William.
it's William. Okay, I thought it was William right off the bat. I got to make sure though. I always feel like I get those names mixed up. And then obviously Teoscar Hernandez in center, and then Jerks and Profar in left field. Um, the American League batters will be Quan in left, Gunnar Henderson at short, Juan Soto in right field, Judge in center field, our man Yordan Alvarez DHing, Jose Ramirez at third, Vladimir Guerrero at first, Adley Rutschman catching, Marcus Semien at second. It's gonna be interesting. You know, these are always fun games, regardless. In some ways, hopefully we get a little bit more action than normal, but sometimes these can also be very low scoring.
Yeah, it's an interesting battle between the pitchers and the pitchers and the batters. The game within the game, Clint.
Always, there's always a matchup, and I'm sure these guys are doing just as much work on them as they do any other time with Welbeck,
Well,
Woba, what they
everybody
swing
wants
at,
to
what
look
they
good,
don't.
right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I didn't do the actual matchup, Clint. I could have done that for the moneymakers, but I didn't. I'm staying focused on the trade deadline, and what do the Astros need? So, it's pretty clear as we've gone through what we went through already tonight. Hey, the Astros need pitching. Um, they need a starter. They may need two starters. I mean, the news of Garcia. What's going on with Garcia now? We got a setback on McCullers, and we're getting kind of like, well, Garcia's taking a pause in his rehab. Like, oh, Now I read that was kind of like more like to fit the system because he wasn't going to be ready in 30 days. You can only do a rehab assignment for 30 days, so you have to stop it, then start another one. I think that's what Chandler said, something to that effect. So
Yeah. And that would make sense. That sounds right. So I would assume if there was more to it, we would have known more. Um, but I think it was also interesting how JV just went from doing nothing to throwing a bullpen session the other day. It's just like, what are we?
yeah,
This
is
Astros
he
front office,
did he just wake up and discover he's not going to get the 140 innings? Is that what that was?
I'm not sure because I think we knew that as soon as he went down again. It's like, man, that 140 is really in jeopardy now.
All right, Clint, I just found the remote. All right.
Well, you haven't missed anything yet, so
It was underneath the cabinet. Like, what the heck?
well,
What
I
the
love
heck?
it. It's like it's a 7 o'clock start. It's a 7 o'clock broadcast time, I guess is the way to say it. It's not a 7 o'clock start time.
No. No, they're not gonna. Do you hear my dog? The dog making the piggy noises.
No, I don't. I don't hear
Okay,
that.
that's good. I think she may need you outside. Let me go run her outside while everybody's getting out on the field.
Well, right now we're putting the game ball on the mound.
I got Ken
Now we have
Rosenthal
actually.
interview.
Now I have Ken Rosenthal interviewing Paul Skeen, so I might be a
Okay.
little behind. So,
Okay. Well, that's what I
oh
have on
no,
the
sorry.
computer.
Yep, sorry. Corbin Burns is being interviewed right now. Forgot I'm live. Tom Verducci interviewing Marcus Simeon. I do enjoy the beige uniforms. I really like the cream color uniforms. Those are always beautiful. We don't see them as much nowadays. I believe the Twins rocks them a little bit. So
Who's your MVP tonight, Clint?
MVP. Man, that's
Jordan
tough.
Alvarez.
I would say Jordan. I just don't know if he's gonna get. I mean, he is DH, so he should see the plate pretty much all night, right?
I think they'll give him. Will they give him 3? Probably 3.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe he might be the first one out because they want to
I
use
was gonna say,
TV.
what if we call this? What if we call home run on his first at B?
There you go.
Let Corbin Burns know he didn't forget about him from the series earlier this season. Mark Berman's priceless.
What do you think of the uniform? You like those uniforms?
Well, I mentioned the beige is kind of cool. It's retro, old school, but I was mentioning how the cream color, you know those very
Yeah.
light beige, the cream color ones are just awesome. Those are old school.
Yeah.
Those are the ones I really like. I know the Twins rock them for one of the uniforms, but we don't see them very much. I've
I
never
think
been a big fan of the way that they do the All-Star uniform, especially lately,
yeah.
but
The red is that's an ugly.
the,
That's an ugly
it's a
shade
pretty
of red.
yeah, it's a pretty harsh combo. It's more pink than red to me.
Yeah. Like, what is
Magenta,
that?
magenta.
Is that the American League color? I don't know. I
Yeah,
mean, why wouldn't it be more like Rangers red? You know,
yeah, I would think so. Or yeah, that's a tough one.
I mean, I understand putting the National League in the baby blue. I mean, I mess with their heads, but all right. Is Otani going deep here? Oh, I like the. I guess that's the ump cam. Yeah, I like that. I wish we had more views like that.
Yeah,
Then people would appreciate how difficult it is to call balls and strikes.
absolutely. But that and yeah, it'll really put that strike zone in perspective.
Otani almost went for that one. What count? What's your count?
I'm at 2-2 right now, and it looks like
Okay.
the gameplay is a lot faster than us, so I might be
Okay.
taking that down actually, as not to ruin the.
Okay. Well, I can't leave that on because that's the game. Let's see if we can do this. I don't need the game on anymore. Turn that off. There you go. So Otani gets a walk.
Yep.
And again, guys, if you're joining us in the chat, please let us know you're here, and let's have that. Bring up any topics baseball you want. During the commercial breaks, I will kind of cover some of the lows. We did the highs before the game, and it's typical for Clint and I. We had lots of caveats and great discussion. So if you missed it, check it out. I don't see anybody in the room right now. You can't hear that, Clint?
I don't hear anything besides um
Okay.
you
Oh, that's
actually,
good.
which I guess is a good sign, right?
Yeah, because my dog, she likes to, like, it almost sounds like an oink of a pig.
Well, if you
She's a
have the
pug.
noise suppression or the background noise suppression on, you know it's working. So
I guess. Good microphone. Oh, we got a rally. Harper. Why don't we just go get Harper, Clint? Let's just go get Harper.
they
We
don't
can
need him.
do that. We can do that, right?
I mean, we can make a phone call.
They can hang up. I'm just gonna be a rumor monger guy, and say we're going to get Harper. We're gonna trade for Harper. See how long that lasts.
Can the National League jump on them early? That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Set the tone right here. I mean, that trade, the Brewers were kind of like the add-in on that trade, right? That was the Oakland Atlanta trade,
Yep.
and somehow Milwaukee got in the middle of that to get William Contreras for not much. And like, well, I think Milwaukee won this trade, and here they got the National League All-Star catcher, and they literally were like just a clearinghouse in that trade. They weren't even the core of that trade.
Right.
Just goes to show you, you never know what deals are going to really matter. All right, let's not do it this break. We'll do it next break. So Clint, my wife and I are going to go to an Astros game on the 31st. That'll be fun. Okay, Percy. Okay.
That Astro game I went to was when they lit up Scooble for those 4 runs, I believe in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun to see. That was a really cool approach the way they did it. They just came out first pitch fastball and they just swung. They just took advantage of it. It was awesome because it was like it was looking not depressing. It was just looking a little sad at the moment because neither team really could get anything going offensively. And then that Astros team just came out there and pop, 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 pop. It was great. I mean, it was a bummer to see second and third with 2 outs. Maybe they needed
Nothing
Yarder
happened.
Diaz up hitting at that moment, not William Contreras, but it's all right.
Correction. We're going to the game on the 30th.
Hmm.
Pirates. You know where I like to sit? I like to sit in the Power Club sections. And you get the $15 voucher with a food voucher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This sounds bad, but I guess I love the club level. That's my favorite place to be.
Yeah.
I thought about getting in Crawford boxes. All right. The little rookie's up on the mound.
I always like to sit in the 300 level. I know that sounds funny, but they always seem to be really good seats, not too far, but right in between. But I always love to sit on the right field line, or just because I get to see the whole field and seeing the Crawford boxes, seeing the left field wall is awesome from that vantage point for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the worst part about the power club, which is way down, kind of in the right field corner, is you don't really get a good view of the scoreboard from there.
Mm-mm. No, and I was kind of bummed out sitting further back, especially on that first level, just because you don't see you don't see every hit. They fly up and out of your view and stuff, and make your
Wow.
choice. Is asking, are we keeping Tucker or not? Hmm.
This year, yes.
Yeah, I would say
There's
this
no,
year
there's
he's
no
not.
way. There's no way they're trading Tucker this year. Now, next year, well, I would say whether they keep Tucker over the off season may depend on the next 2 months. Like, what is Loperfido going to do? What does Cabbage do? What does um what all do all the other players do?
Yeah, I mean it's hard for me to say always because it's like and then we always want to talk about, well, they have somebody like Jacob Melton down there, but it's like we have no real knowing of how great he
Mm-hmm.
could be if he can be. It's kind of like, I mean, the Washington Nationals are going through that with, I believe it's Dylan Cruz. They drafted him number 1 overall a few years ago, and it's been a slow process. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. I mean, obviously, it's good that we have him under control. Yeah, I guess you could say, is that the right phrase, Larry? Under control 1 more year at least.
Yeah.
So we'll get to see Kyle Tucker bat for us through 2025 if we want to. So
Yeah, I never felt like the Astros. Well, okay. I mean, this comes back to like we were getting questions in April about who are they going to trade, right? And we said, well, don't even talk to us about trades yet. We were like, and the expectation was like, well, this team sucks. We're going to trade. Let's go trade everybody. And like, well, I mean, I'm approaching the season from a completely different metric base to that, and like, I don't think this team sucks. I think they're going to come back, and I think they're going to really surprise people when they come back and perform like I think they can. And and so we're kind
this
of
would be a
seeing that
different
right now.
discussion if they were but if they were 10, 15 games below 500 right now, we'd have a completely different discussion
So,
potentially. But
what are my ALCS matchup predictions? Boy, that's hard. So,
Holstein's getting the best of Juan Soto right here.
let's go to Fangraphs and let's do playoff odds.
100 miles an hour.
Monso's really good.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think we can assume that the Yankees and Orioles are in, and the Guardians are in, and let's put the Twins in, and let's put the Astros and the Mariners in. So
Strike if he
if
could squeeze it. Damn.
if that's the case, well, okay, I have to let me do this. Let me go on league and do it by that. So therefore, Yankees. I'm gonna say the Orioles are gonna win the East. Nope. We're gonna get a lot of Livy Dunn shots apparently.
Yeah. That's yep.
So we got Orioles, Guardians, Twins as the division lead. No, Orioles, Guardians, and Astros as the division winners. I think right now, if you force me to pick, I think the Astros are winning the division. I think the Mariners. I think the Mariners are going to get some more pitching injuries, and they will. They're not going to fade. I think they'll still make the playoffs, but and make the postseason. But they will, by that standard, be the sixth seed. And I guess the Astros would be the 3 seed if that plays out. So I'm going to say Orioles 1, Guardians 2, Astros 3, Yankees 4, Twins 5, Mariners 6. That means the Mariners play the Astros in the first round, right? Yeah. Wow. All right. Then I'll take the Astros. Then that means the Twins and no, the Twins and
That would put the Twins and the Guardians against each other,
Twins
right?
Twins and the Yankees, right? The
Or
Yankees would be
Twins and
the
the
other
Yankees.
wild
Yeah,
card.
right.
I
Yeah.
think the Yankees win that. So that means in my scenario, Orioles 1, Yankees were 4, Guardians were 2, Guardians Astros. I don't know if people have noticed, but Fangraphs is basically saying the Guardians are not going to play very well the rest of the year. And part of that's because they have a really tough schedule. The rest of the season predictions right here, you notice this number right here, guys, 477 for the Guardians. So I'm gonna lean into that. The Astros win that. So here we go, Clint. The Astros beat the Guardians. Now they're in the ALCS. The Orioles beat the Yankees. They're in the ALCS. The Orioles beat the Astros. The Astros go to the ALCS and lose. There you go.
It's interesting because that would actually, I would think that would, I don't know. I mean, that would be an interesting matchup, though. I really would have to say the Orioles and the Astros. I mean, yeah, that would be pretty. It would be a very interesting and very poetic way for this Astros season to go after that. But also, I don't know. I have a hard time discounting them against a lot of teams, especially in the playoff mode. But it's all going to come on health, you know.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, here's
do we have a
cool.
Garcia and a McCullers? I mean, it feels less and less likely every day, but
Yeah. Well, I still have some faith that Garcia makes a
right.
bit of a return. It may not be a starter return, but if you told me
Mm-hmm.
Garcia could come out for an inning or two in the bullpen, that could save a lot of. That could be a difference maker, in my opinion, with the way the season has gone for sure.
Yeah.
And I guess
National
it all
League.
could depend because we'll be having this conversation again in a couple weeks after the deadline if the Astros make a starting pitcher
Mm-hmm.
move and get someone worth having. I mean, we'll see what they pay for.
Right.
I remember one in Schuylkill years ago. They, nope. It's just so hard, and I think that's always the challenge. Is everyone thinks, well, you could trade for anybody, but these organizations know, like with the 6-7 year service time window that they get on players, and then talent and stuff. It's just like it's hard to get them to budge on young talent,
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're stuck with, you know, you see a guy like this, and I think that was 2018, 19. I was like, what about this guy? He's pretty good, and not. He wasn't great at the moment, but it's like, yeah, this is why these organizations hold on to him and wait and value them so high is when they come out and have Cy Young caliber seasons. It's all about age, time, and priming, or age, time, and whether they get them in the prime, and stuff like that. So, former Astro Teoscar Hernandez. So, Larry, here's a good question for you. I know it's kind of hard to compare the two, but do you get? I don't know how you. I know Pedro Leon's kind of an enigma right now because you just don't know what the Astros are doing
Right.
with him, right? But does Teoscar Hernandez and Pedro Leon kind of give you similar vibes? Because I feel like the Astros were in that boat with him for a while too.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think Teoscar Hernandez is the ceiling you would hope that Pedro Leon could reach,
Yeah,
but I'm not even sure that's
that's. I don't know if it's possible, but I was watching Leon in the home run derby last night, and then I was watching I watched Pedro Leon when I see highlights and stuff on YouTube, going and looking, and I'm like, man, I just draw a bunch of similarities and trajectory and the power. They had those types of upside similarities, and then it's like,
Mhm.
but Teoscar's obviously broken out and performed really well. Outside of the Astros organization, it's like, and I guess that just brings us to the next thing what the Astros are doing with this outfielders, because they've got a guy like Leon, they've got Milton, they've got those folks, and then we're talking about Chaz, Jake, Loperfido, Cabbage. We've got a lot of a lot of service time and some outfielders that could be viable, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that the next couple of weeks with the trade deadline coming up. But uh, I guess it's just hard to watch Pedro Leon hit bomb after bomb in AAA and not think that, man, could he do that a few times up here?
Right. I mean, do you think that Chaz is playing himself out of being tradable?
That's part of the concern, right? I mean, who would want to take the chance at this point? Like, is this who he really is?
Right.
Because I think you and I talk about that all the time. It's like these guys get hot, some guys have great seasons, but then they start to become who we always thought they were. I think Montero was obviously the greatest example of that. You look over his whole career, and 2022 was just this anomaly of success, but it's like lightning in a bottle.
Right.
Um, but Larry, I'm just gonna have to. I know I have to hop off. I
Yeah.
apologize. I know.
No, you have a prior engagement, so I'm going to hang out with. It looks like there's a couple people here. I don't. I
Yes.
think make your own choices here. I don't know who else is here.
Well, I'm gonna
Um,
encourage them to make sure that they collaborate, engage, and hit you with all the questions possible while I'm gone. And I just want to say
yeah, make
thank
it
you
hard
for,
on me.
yeah, letting me join you. Enjoyed the first inning and a half. I hope the All-Star games is as entertaining as it looks when you look at all the names and stuff like that. And everybody be ready. We'll have another show Thursday. Larry and I are gonna get times and stuff set up, and we'll be sending that stuff out tomorrow. So with that, Larry, I'm going to say so long and thanks
All
again.
right. All right. Thank you. Let's see. I wanted to show something. Figure out where it is. Guys, I get so many spreadsheets open that I sometimes forget where things are. Nope, that's not going to be what I want. All right, Boy Jordan is up. 3-0 count on my TV. Long foul ball in the stands. Check to see if I'm getting any. Folks, if you are here, please jump in with questions if you have any. All right, Alvarez does one of the things he does best is gets a walk for us. So during the commercial break, I will start talking about the lowlights, the highs and lows of the Astros season. We'll start covering some of the lows. And I think everybody knows what low number one is. All right, everybody wants to trade for Vladimir Guerrero. Here's your chance to see Vladdy at work. We don't need that. We don't need Vladdy getting Jordan out at second. We don't need that. And it looks like this inning is going to be over pretty soon. All right. Well, let's talk about lows. And let me see if anybody's here. Looks like there might be a couple people in the room. So what I did, and if you missed us going through the highs, please jump on the website and check out this article, the highs and lows of the first half of 2024. And understand the tone we went through the highs was really, really positive, and the tone I'm about to hit is going to be not nearly as positive. And so please forgive me for that. But Jose Abreu is clearly the first low of the year. And, you know, I was one of the Astros fans that had hoped that when Abreu was signed, that he would. I mean, Jose Abreu had played in a lot of games in 21, 22. In other words, he seemed capable of holding down first base heading into the 23 season. Yes, he did show signs of a power outage or reduced power, but there were reasons to believe it wasn't quite that bad. In the 2023 season, Jose Abreu really started out terribly. But as the year went on, after about May 28th, Jose Abreu was basically an average player the rest of the year. And going into the 20, and he finished the 23 season actually really pretty good for the Astros. For um, he was great in the last. He was good in the last month, and he was great in the postseason. So, what version of Jose Abreu should we have gotten? Well, the as we talked about at the very beginning when we looked at some of the table, Jose Abreu was expected to give the Astros 618 plate appearances, 108 WRC plus, and about one WAR because there were notes of his significantly challenged defense at first base. That would have been better than the 86 WRC plus he ended up the year with after a good September. Um, and so, you know, the expectation was that he was gonna do well. Well, obviously the season started out horribly, and before he went to Florida to work on a swing, the early season was terrible. 77 plate appearances, a negative 22 WRC plus, a minus 1.2 WAR. Abreu was the worst player in the major leagues on April 28th by WAR. After 4 weeks, he came back for 18 days. So he went to Florida for 4 weeks. The Astros actually got hot during that period of time. As we covered, Singleton actually was breaking, and he came back. He split the time with Singleton and eventually was getting like 70-80% of playing time. And it was better than the minus 22 WRC plus. Okay, it wasn't that bad, but it was only 41 WRC plus and 43 plate appearances, and it was a negative 0.3 WAR. And on July 13th, I wrote an article. If you haven't ever read it, you might want to read it just for amusement at this point. The article was titled "Astros How Long." You got Jerickson Profar getting a hit. The Ranger fans should like that. Jerickson Profar came up in the Ranger system. And then the very next day, Abreu was released. So there you go. The power to Larry DM. Now I'm just teasing, guys. I wrote that article because I was like, it just seems like something should happen, and something was imminent to happen, and I just wanted to document like it's time, guys. It is time. All right, we'll talk about the next article and the next low light for the Astros season at the next break. Oh, guys, if you'd been a little faster with that, you could have gotten that second. Well, guys, I don't, if nobody's wanting to join, it's fine. We don't need to be on. I guess I should just shut it down. We will be back Thursday. We will talk more. The rest of the lows, basically, let me just cover those. Well, we're getting. The National League is rallying here. Otani's up. Talk about the pitching staff and how it's a mash unit. You can see the top end of this is the starting pitchers and how many starting pitchers and how much service time, how much of the calendar. We are 110 days into the season, and we have multiple pitchers that have starting pitchers that have not played. 3-run homer from Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani doing what Shohei Ohtani does best. Yeah, having fun. Then we talk about Montero. You can check out what I've written about Montero. Then talk about Chas McCormick and what the heck has happened with Chas McCormick, which I don't really know the answer to. He's like the shell of the 2023 version, Chas McCormick. And then the last low light is really the 43-day injury of Kyle Tucker, which was on a shin contusion. Just seems like it was more than a shin contusion, to be honest with you. So Hawk is getting lit up. So, all right, guys, I'm going to shut it down and let that way I can listen to the game. And my wife